Hey, Brass Facts here. Not too long ago, Surefire was the king of WMLs, weapon-mounted lights. If you needed one, you went with Surefire, end of story. But that was in 2010, which is like 13 years ago. You're getting real old. Since their reign, Surefire seems to have hit a sort of complacency hump. Their dual fuel series, which was meant to be their flagship light, has had some serious teething and reliability issues, and their attempts at new products like the XVL2 and the XC1 were frankly just insulting at their price to performance ratio without offering any real reliability either. The X400V is a design nightmare with more exposed arm switches than an F-16 cockpit. It also it doesn't really hold zero, though that's more fault of most modern handgun designs. With the advent of garage startups, some literally still in their garage, flagship scout lights were getting curb stomped 5 times over at the same price. Budget lights like the Streamlight HLX and yes, many Olights, matching or exceeding their flagship lights in flood performance, the last thing Surefire was clinging to. It really seemed like the golden era of Surefire may be coming to the end. Thus, the Surefire Turbo, Surefire's answer to the industry addiction to long-throw WMLs. The model I'll be tackling today is the 640 DFT, Dual Fuel Turbo, the one that goes on your rifle. It's pushing an it's not even eye-watering, it's pushing an eye-drying 100,000 candela, 700 lumens. I'll have footage in the background, but yeah, there's no contest. This demolishes all of the first-gen hyper-throw candela lights, all of which are around the 50,000 candela mark, and it completely curb stomps all the floodlights when any kind of range or intermediate barrier presents themselves. It does so without using any proprietary batteries. You can use your two CR123s, which nicks the performance slightly, or you can use an 18650, which gives you the full 6-figure. Right now, really only the Cloud 3 and the the AWLS HRT head match this level of performance, both being right at that 6-figure mark, once again using the same battery system. I think we're right at the cusp where throw at the expense of flood, because all of these trade one for the other, still makes sense. I'm still able to use this thing in CQB, close range, whatever. Never really felt handicapped. It was certainly more effective than other lights at about 150 yards, where the difference between this versus an OKW or Malkoff long throw head begin to present itself. In a forested environment, not that you'd ever really want to use it in that setting, but hey, analogs to windows and stuff, the hyper-throw heads really just outperform flood-style lights in this setting, and the turbo is basically chief among those. Being able to thread through intermediate foliage without blinding you to the target beyond. This applies to a lot of things in the real world, quote-unquote. Smoke, keyhole shooting, and yes, everyone's favorite, photonic barriers. So, is that it? Surefire matches the competition, comes out with a $400 light, right in line with the industry frontrunners, which means, yeah, it's gonna sell a ton because, Surefire. Yeah, actually, that's about it. It's good. I ran mine for about 2,500 rounds. I'm not having any battery contact issues.
And that includes running it for about 500 rounds on a SCAR Heavy, which actually launched a VCOG. So it's actually doing all right.
It's working great. But, you're on a Brass Facts channel, so let's get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of it. Let's do it. But not before a word from our sponsor, Eclipse Armory. I shoot a lot. You should shoot a lot. We all shoot a lot. And you need ammo to shoot. Eclipse Armory is a spot where you can get ammo to shoot. Wow, novel idea. They're just getting started. Limited inventory and basically right now focusing on 9mm and 5.56. They both sponsor a bunch of cool content creators, and myself, but also interact regularly with customers and non-customers via Discord, Instagram, and more. Now, more than ever, you vote with your wallet. If you want this company to succeed, and by a lesser extension, my channel to succeed, the next time you need ammo, go ahead, compare prices, and then go hit up Eclipse Armory. Thanks, Eclipse Armory. All the new Surefire lights are using the new Surefire Pro mount. Well, it's not that new, but remember, defense contractors move at glacial speeds, so it's new for them, right? Okay? Ironically, this replaces the industry Surefire Scout mounts with a swivel mount style system that interfaces directly with a PIC or M-lock interface. Fuck you, Keymod, you're dead. It's not perfect by any means. Even when you tighten it, you can, using enough muscle grease. Here's a reference for the oldies. You can brute force it into a new position, which sometimes actually comes in handy in the field if you need to access like a zero mark on your laser or something, but generally is kind of a pain in the ass. I think these things will be hit or miss for most, But for me, I find it's incredibly low profile, which allows for tight fitment with any laser aiming module I have, without trying to figure out which of the $400 aftermarket $50 mounts I need to buy to get a flush fit. It's basically, sorry Boboro, the better version of a Boboro swivel mount for the Scout Series stuff. A bigger aspect of buying this light though, despite likely having reference CADs of Surefire bodies, there seems to be something weird about non-Surefire bodies. Many people have reported an issue with a combo of anything other than a standard clicky tail cap and an aftermarket non-Surefire body combined with a DS00 or with a UE tail end cap. Basically the things you need to put a tape switch into your light. I cannot state this enough. This is not an insignificant thing. A lot of people in my circle have an issue where after a bit of wear-in, the tail cap ends up having to be in a perfect magical position, which isn't the tightest position, by the way, or the light flickers or doesn't come on.
Now, this doesn't happen all the time. This is more of something that'll happen every once in a while, and then you have to tighten the light and figure out where the new sweet spot is, and then you're off to the races again. But it happens frequently enough that it's incredibly obnoxious, and in theory, a life-threatening condition. As ridiculous as it sounds, the dimensions of the bodies apparently matters. We figured this out with a couple of my light reviews so far, because the body is what determines the standoff distance between the end cap and, the battery. Surefire makes both the bodies and the industry standard tail caps that everyone is using. These universally don't seem to have nearly as much end cap issues. I'm sure there's a conspiracy in there somewhere. Okay, that being said, it's a light. There's really not much else to it. Is this light for everyone? No. In fact, it's probably not for most people. Another flextillion candela of light isn't really needed, especially if you already own the last gen Hyperthrow lights. Don't feel the need to consume and buy the next greatest thing. If you already have a light, you're good to go. But if you do need a new light, consider you may find yourself turned off by the size of this thing. We got a cute little CR123 style head over here, nice and small. Here's an OKW dual fuel, a little bigger. And here's a big mama DFT, what the fuck is up? It's a big light, about on par with an HLX or a Cloud Rain 3. Not a huge deal by any means, especially when the weight is barely any more, but it's certainly something to consider with a bunch of setups, especially if you have something like a suppressor clearance to meet. Since the demographic that uses both night vision and those willing to shell out a bunch of fuck you money on a WML seem to overlap significantly, it's worth considering that in these scenarios, for NV, white light performance is somewhat of a utility and a backup, meaning perhaps we don't need all of this performance and we can go with a smaller, maybe even cheaper light. But ultimately, it's a great light. If you need all the throw, all the candela, you're probably going to go for this light nowadays, if you can handle the swivel mount. So, good job, Surefire. You're back in the game, finally. The price, while painful, is right in line with something like a Cloud Rain 3, but instead of a free tape switch, you get a free, not-so-meh swivel mount. I basically reviewed all the weapon-mounted lights so far, so stay tuned for a 2024 Light Buyer's Guide later this year when I compare the whole range of WMLs. Regardless, thanks for watching, thanks for commenting, and, joining me for another RasFax video. For those that want to level up your support from commenting to more, which don't feel like you need to, I appreciate the comments more than you know. I do in fact read all comments, even the schizo ones. You can go ahead and join my Subscribe Star. It helps keep the silly parade going for just that little bit longer. You get access to all of my videos and an archived live show that me and Hopla Person do together. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Well, she used to growl when I did this. She doesn't do it anymore.